My name is Hellen Gade. I'm a poet, and when I found out about the five, I wrote a letter to all five of them. I think it was in 2005. And many years went by and my conscience was black. And then I met the Cuban ambassador, who told me that now René González had started a campaign showing a symbol of love and an appeal to the American people from the Cuban people. So I started working, and I went and I stripped the shop in E.U.A, where I live, for yellow ribbons, and they said to me, "No, we don't have any more, it's coming tomorrow, it's coming tomorrow." And I went there again and I stripped them again, and as I did, I couldn't help thinking that this has to be written. So I wrote a poem about it, and I wrote an article in our local paper, and I wrote, for instance, about Luis Posada Carriles, how a horrible anti-communist he was, and about all his disgusting infamities. And they took the letter. I got in the paper, and I have a feeling, maybe I'm wrong, but I have a feeling that most of the people in E.U.A are keeping an eye and taking care of the yellow ribbons, because they have understood the injustice and political overtones that were in the trial of the five, where I also wrote how they really were sentenced. Many people ask me, why are you wearing the yellow ribbon on your goggles? I say goggles because that's what they say in English and not in American. Why are you wearing the yellow ribbon on your goggles? And I say, and I know it gives a signal of joy and beauty, and I say it's because something very terrible is going on in the world. And then they get curious, so I tell them. And one of the men working where I live, taking care of for instance, getting the snow away in winter and making the grass nice and keep everything neat and so forth. He came up to me one day when I stood at the bus stop, and he threw away everything he had in the hands and came up to me and said, "This yellow ribbon, has that something to do with the yellow ribbons on the trees?" "Oh yes," I said. And he said, "Has it got anything to do with tie a yellow ribbon?" "Oh yes," I said. So I told him the whole story. And I've heard from somebody else who has heard him tell the story to people who ask him, "What are those yellow ribbons about?" And this was before I wrote in the local paper. And I'm telling all of this in my love and affection for the five and their parents, their mothers, their fathers, their wives, their children, their family in all. And when I started my work with the yellow ribbons, I couldn't help writing a poem, so I'm going to read it to you. 5 men are staying behind thick walls in a foreign country where their language is not known. The country is a neighbor country, a country of God, where the dirty laundry is hanging out and therefore cannot hide the stink that grows stronger as years go by, coming from its exile in Miami. It is no use holding one's nose as long as it is hanging there. Some people pretend it is not even there. It can be smelled across the sea and into the grass, who whispers of their full straws, but the wind heard and grew into a storm of love and fury, carrying the message throughout the world. We must go on learning the true language, perhaps the language of body, the sign language, the written language, or songs. There are still many songs to be sung.